Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My conversation this week is with Ryan Canfield, a financial advisor with 13 years experience and founder and president of Victus Wealth Management. Now, Ryan is a current client of mine. He and I have been collaborating over the past few months on an ebook that he is going to use as his lead magnet for his business, as well as a welcome email sequence and landing page to pair with that ebook. So I have had the pleasure of getting to know Ryan pretty well over the past few months and getting to hear his stories and the philosophies that drive his firm and financial planning practices that he uses with clients. I have been so impressed by Ryan's ability to articulate how a few core stories over the course of his life and career have resulted in the financial planning work he does today. And he has, in fact, maybe without realizing it, built an entire really standout brand out of these core stories. Now, he's sharing these stories in his conversation with me today, and we talk in depth about how those stories are influencing every aspect of his marketing and the financial planning work he does. And what this means is that the clients that he works with end up having this really great, consistent experience in every interaction they have with him, from the first moment they come across him online to the meetings and the follow-up meetings they have with him in a financial advisory capacity. So I'm really excited for you to hear how these things show up in Ryan's brand, with the idea that hopefully you will also gain unique insights into your own brand and stories that you can apply to your business. So without further ado, let's dive in. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I am really looking forward to this conversation because you and I have worked in a pretty close capacity together over the last couple of months. So I have some insider knowledge into what is happening in your firm right now. And I'm excited to kind of dive into that more and unpack a little bit of that for our listeners. So I would love to start if you would just tell us a little bit about who you are, why you started your firm. You have some really powerful stories and reasons behind the name of your firm. Give us your backstory.
Yeah. So growing up, I thought I was going to work on Wall Street. That was the plan. I opened up my very first account when I was in 7th grade, I believe. And my parents gave me a little bit of money and I started trading stocks then. So I became really addicted to it. So Wall Street was the plan all along. And then when I was in high school, my parents worked with a financial advisor, and my brother has a special needs. So he was eligible for some government benefits that, my family wasn't taking advantage of, but it was there just in case they needed it. And the financial advisor that they worked with never actually took the time to learn like my family's story. I'm not 100% sure if she even knew that I existed. She did not know that my brother had a disability, even though my parents, I'm sure, had mentioned it multiple times. She just either didn't pay attention or she forgot about it. So what had happened was the advisor established an account for my brother that got above a certain dollar amount, therefore not making him eligible for those government benefits anymore. And it took years and a lot of attorneys to get him to become eligible again. So once I saw that and how that impacted my family, I made a really quick shift to the personal finance side. So when I was in college, I actually interned for a financial advising firm as a junior. And then when I was a senior in college, I started studying for my Series 7 and trying to get licensed and everything. And then right after graduating college, I became an advisor. And, it was one of those things. I worked very closely with an advisor, the advisor I actually interned with, saw how she handled clients. And it was just something that I knew right then and there that this was the career for me.
Mm.
So it's been a blessing being able to work with clients so closely over the years.
Wow. Uh, Now I know you said you were a kid when all of this happened in your family and you watched
Mhm.
your parents go through this. How old were you? Do you remember?
I want to say I was probably 13, 14,
Mm.
somewhere around that.
Wow. Yeah, I love your story because, I hear a lot of advisors talk about why they got into the field, and they either had an advisor that had a really positive experience with, or, they were really inspired. And I really kind of love your experience. Your family had a really poor experience with advisors. And rather than kind of swearing off the industry altogether, you were like, I'm going to do better and make this industry better. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. And, I mean, the whole 2007, 2008 situation played a part into it as well. My
Mm.
parents were always saying about how they were a conservative investor, and then found out they lost like 80 some percent of their money. So it was one of those situations where I think the advisor had them in something that benefited her versus benefiting my parents.
Wow.
Um, so it was just one of those things that I sat there and I'm like, it's got to be different. Like, there's got to be
Mm.
some other way that people are doing this. So just kind of jumping in blind, and making that decision again in 2007, 2008 it was an interesting experience to say the least.
Absolutely. Well, the name of your firm now is Victus Wealth
Mhm.
Management, and you have there's a reason why it's called Victus Wealth Management, and I think that that's such a powerful thing. Um, there are a lot of advisors out there who just name their firm after themselves, and that's
Mhm.
totally fine. That works. But when you have a really powerful reason behind the name of your firm, that really can lend itself to great marketing as well. So I would love to hear the story behind the name of your firm and also what Victus means.
Yeah. So, I was at a previous firm that I had helped start with a couple other advisors of mine. And one of my biggest focuses has always been financial planning.
Mm.
Too many advisors are just worried about the investment management side of things. And my belief is that, you can't build a portfolio without knowing the whole situation. So over the years, I've seen a lot of clients pass away quickly after retiring. One story sticks out to me. I had a client and husband and wife who um, they were constantly saving money. They were putting off trips. They were putting off home renovations because that was something they were going to do when they retired. So the wife actually finally pulled the trigger to retire. And shortly after that, she reached out to me to tell me that she's been diagnosed with cancer. Um, and it was just one of those eye opening moments for me where, you know, everything around us kind of paused and the focus shifted really to her health.
Mm.
And sitting down talking to her husband and stuff, it was one of those things that over all these years they sat there and they saved and saved and saved and they made a ton of sacrifices. And unfortunately, a couple months after being diagnosed, she passed away. So that very first meeting that I had with the husband after she had passed, he said, "What am I supposed to do? I have all of this money. I don't want it. I'm not going to go to Italy. I'm not going to take these trips. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that." And it really got me thinking of how many people are in the same situation where they've been told that they have to save every single dollar. Stop spending money on Starbucks. Don't go to Disney World. It costs, I don't know, $10,000 to go to Disney World, and that $10,000 in 25 years is going to be worth this amount of money.
Mm.
You know, and then they live with regret. And over the years, I've had a ton of clients say something very, very similar, to that other client story, where their health has declined. They can't, they had a goal that they wanted to go hiking, in the Midwest. Now they can't do it because their legs don't work like they used to. They're physically unable to, and they're like, I should have did it when I was younger, but I prioritized my job, or I prioritized, maxing out my 401k or IRA. So when I decided that I was going to launch my own firm, that story just really stuck out. And somebody had said to me, what about the word Victus?
Mm.
And my son's involved in baseball. I know the baseball company Victus, it's becoming one of the most popular bat companies. But I never actually knew what it meant. So I started looking into it, and everything that I saw was saying it means to live. And it clicked instantly. I
Mm-hmm.
said, that's the name of my firm. I always tell people I want to help you live your retirement dream today,
Mm.
even if you're not in retirement. So that's how Victus was born.
That's such a powerful story. And first of all, props to you for getting through that story without choking up, because I
Yeah, it's
know,
rough.
yeah, I know from knowing you and talking with you, you've told that story before, and it's often, it's a tearjerker story every time I hear it on your podcast.
Yeah.
It brings me to tears. I had my husband listen to that episode, and I had to turn away because I was just crying, because it reminds me of us.
Yeah.
We are very much in that stage of life where we're like, we just need to save, 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 save. Let's put off the trips. And that story really impacted both of us. And I think we are going to prioritize a couple more trips when our kids are young, and all of
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
um,
It's all about finding your values and making sure that your values align with like your financial situation and your financial goals. And that's the future of financial planning. Like that's the future
mhm.
of our industry.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing I know about you, Ryan, that I would love to dive into with a little bit further, is that you are currently undergoing a niche change. You
Mhm.
have this philosophy, and I think this philosophy is really, really powerful for a specific group of people who you now want to target. Your problem is you have a really great book of business that you're currently working with, that you love working with,
Mhm.
and they're not part of that new niche that you're trying to target, which can be really challenging. You certainly don't want to alienate them.
Mhm.
So can you talk to me a little bit about what niche you're kind of leaning into going forward, and how you're doing that, and where some of the challenges are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, when I first started in this career, I was 21, 22, and it was very challenging. So I just started working with every single person that wanted to talk to me. As, you know, pretty much every financial advisor does when they first start. Um, and over the years, I've quickly realized that there's a demographic out there that nobody wants to talk to.
Mm.
It's very neglected. Um, and one of the reasons why is because most advisors think that they don't have assets to manage, which might be the case, but might not be. A lot of people don't realize that the millennial generation is actually getting pretty old.
Yep.
I trust me, I coach 11-year-old boys, and they tell me all the time, they're like, Coach, you're old. And I'm like, I'm 35. Like, thank you. But it's one of those things that like even my older clients think millennials are still in their early 20s,
Yeah.
um, but we're not. So, you know, when I launched my firm, it was a challenge to sit there. Everybody kept telling me you have to create a niche market. It helps you with your marketing. It makes your marketing more focused. And I was hesitant. And, like you said, I have this existing clientele that 97% of it doesn't actually match what I want my niche market to be.
Hmm.
So like my new niche is professionals 45 and under that have kids,
Hmm.
um, which is literally my wife and I,
Yep.
so uh, being able to build my website around that market it was a challenge in the beginning, and I'm kind of getting over it, but it's one of those that if you go to my website, it implies that that's the market I work with, without coming right out saying, here's who this is for.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I've tackled it a little bit.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job. I've been looking at your website quite a lot recently, and I also think it does a really great job of kind of implying and speaking to that target demographic without calling them out directly,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is the perfect way to transition. 10 years from now, maybe you do want to make it a little bit more targeted towards them once your clientele reflects that
Mm-hmm.
niche a little bit more. But I mean, there's so many ways to do it. I'm curious, have you communicated with any of your current clients who don't fit the millennial demographic about what you're doing, or are you kind of in a place where you don't really feel the need to do that yet?
I've talked to some clients. I haven't come right out and saying, "Hey, I'm no longer working with, retirees or people that are about to retire." That's something that I continue to get referrals from that demographic,
Yeah.
um, and I'm not at a point where I really want to turn them away.
Mm-mm.
But my external marketing that I'm doing focuses strictly on that younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the, I'll call them older clients that I've talked to, it's more about, I know that they have adult children that are millennials.
Mm-hmm.
So I introduced them to, my podcast. I explained to them my financial planning program that I've developed specifically for this generation.
Mm.
And it's piqued a lot of interest, which has now led to clients starting to refer their adult children to me.
I think that's really, really great. I think that's a great way to go about it too, is to kind of gently let them know, and that could create more business opportunities for you if they start to refer that demographic of the people in their lives that they know, in addition to referring their peers as well. Because I don't think you ever have to say no, right, to clients that you still want to work with if
Yeah.
you're niching down.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, like where I am currently struggling with is, you know, I could always go and bring on another advisor that focuses on that retiree market
Mm.
and eventually hand that demographic of my clients over to this other advisor to where I'm strictly focused on, the under 45 crowd. This other advisor might be focused on, retirees. I could see me having a female advisor as part of the team that works with like widowed clients.
Hmm.
So it's one of those that I'm hesitant to change my whole entire website to just say, you know, under 45 professionals, millennials, is who I'm working with. Especially knowing that down the road, there's also on the succession plan of another advisor
Hmm.
who I will purchase his business probably in the next 5 to 10 years. It's not my demographic. It's
Hmm.
not my niche market. So over that time, I'm going to have to bring on another advisor to kind of handle those clients. But right now it's just, let's focus all the external marketing on that younger generation.
I think that is so, so smart. I love the well rounded approach that you're taking towards this and really looking down the road and your growth plans for your firm and things like that. I think there's just no better way to do it.
Mhm.
Um, let's dive in a little bit to how you are doing some of that external marketing. Where are you showing up and how are you talking to uh, the under 45 crowd?
Yeah. So a lot of this is brand new. I launched my new firm back in December of last year.
Hmm.
So the whole external marketing thing is something that I'm not used to doing. So it's been like drinking from a fire hose. I've been trying to do literally everything you can possibly think of, and quickly realized that I can't do that. So, I've really been focusing on LinkedIn, trying to post there all throughout the week, commenting on people's posts. Instagram is something that I'm working on. I launched a new podcast within the last month. I've started a YouTube channel. I have a Facebook page that I use as well. So what I'm quickly learning is I can repurpose content.
Mm.
So it makes it a lot easier to be on all those channels.
Hmm.
But it, you also just like have to stop being a perfectionist, with which I am. So it was like, not only am I trying to drink from a fire hose, but I need to make sure that everything is perfect before I actually put it out there.
Yep. I can relate to that so much. I was always a straight A student before I got into marketing. I was a writing teacher, so I really also had to unlearn a lot of those perfectionist tendencies.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, the best motto that someone told me was that in marketing and in your business, B plus, results or B plus effort is really the way to go. And that has helped me so much with trying to do all the things, is it doesn't have to be perfect.
Mhm.
It's better to get something out there than nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of had my aha moment about a month or two ago. I recorded a video that was supposed to be a YouTube short.
Hmm.
So I shot the video in portrait mode and didn't realize that YouTube shorts were actually 60 seconds and less.
Yeah.
So I think the video ends up being like, I don't know, like a minute and 10 seconds or something, like not that much over. Um, but I sat there and I started editing the video and I was like, oh, I should probably just reshoot this. And this little birdie on my shoulder kept saying, don't be perfect, push it out there. And plus it's one of your first videos, nobody's going to watch it. So I said, okay, like I'll go ahead and I'll shove this out there and nobody's going to see it. It's going to be a great learning experience. I'm going to learn how to upload a video to YouTube, write a YouTube description. I might promote it on LinkedIn and Instagram. We'll figure it out. So I uploaded the video to YouTube and walked away. And I didn't go back to YouTube until I want to say it was the very next day. And I had 500 views on that video. And I remember hopping on a group call with this group that I'm a part of that we talk about, some of the video marketing stuff that we're doing. And they were all just laughing at me because I'm like, it wasn't supposed to be seen. Everybody lied to me. They told me nobody's going to watch this. And here it's got 500 views in, less than 24 hours. But again, it made me realize that, the topic was kind of controversial. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was about bad advice that, these influencers give on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I used a story of like, here's this person and what they were saying. Here's why this is wrong. And I think the title of it, I don't even think I had a thumbnail on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it got views. So that was my aha moment.
My follow-up question to you is, knowing that it wasn't exactly perfect in the way you wanted it, but it got so many views, do you have any regrets? Do you wish that you had made it the perfect 60-second?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because I've done a couple of videos after that. None of them have come anywhere close to that many views,
Mm-hmm.
especially in that short period of time. So my regret was I should have done this years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, again, just getting started.
Yeah. Hmm. I love that. I always say I have a separate podcast with a business partner for a separate business that we have. And we started it actually almost exactly a year ago. I think on June 10th is when we launched our first few episodes. And I am always telling her, I wish that we had started this 2 years prior, because that's when we first had the idea. And we just came up with all these excuses not to do it. And ever since we started doing it, we have just learned so much about our audience. We've learned more about our own business, more about marketing, so many things. And it's truly that Chinese proverb, right? It's so cliche, but it's,
Yeah.
the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago and the second best time is today. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a big fan of just get it out there.
Yeah.
So,
I remember that I was going to do my podcast. I was going to start it back. I think it was back in December was the
mm,
plan. And I'm like, okay, I need to go get a mic. I need to get a mic stand. I need to do
mhm.
this. I need to do that. Um, and so many people were like, Ryan, you're overthinking it. Like you can just use your phone if you really wanted to. And I'm like, no, I have to have all this stuff because, Google tells me I have to have this,
Right.
like everything. And, um, once I recorded the first episode, I immediately turned around and recorded the second episode. And then it was like a couple days later, the third episode was recorded. I'm like, this is easy,
Yep.
like don't overthink it, just push it out there.
That's the challenge with podcasting and video. I think you can set so many barriers for yourself that prevent you from getting started. But when you actually remove those barriers, it is such an easy type of content to keep creating consistently.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah. So the podcast is called Now and Beyond. So, it is strictly tailored towards, professionals under 45 living busy lives, trying to balance their kids, their jobs, family, possibly taking care of their aging parents. So, it's not the typical financial advisor podcast where I'm sitting here saying, here's what a Roth conversion is, and here's why you should do it. It's more about helping you live your life today. So the first couple episodes, I do talk about some basic financial planning stuff. But I have some pretty cool things in the works. One topic that I'm always talking to clients about, or I should say clients are asking me about, is what they tend to call credit card hacking. So it's like the whole reward point system, like how can they take advantage of it? So like I have an episode that's going to be tailored around that. But again, like daycare costs, how do you navigate that complex world? Summer camp right now for parents that have never had to get kids enrolled in summer camp. What do you do? How do you do it? And how do you pay for it? So just topics like that. Again, like I want to help you be able to experience life today instead of waiting until, retirement, which might not ever come.
Yeah, well, I just really want to plug your podcast for you too, because I've listened to the first two episodes. They are fantastic. I'm really looking forward to your daycare episode because I have a 2-year-old about to have another, and oh my Lord, daycare is crazy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know at one point we had 2 in daycare at the same exact time. And I remember saying to my wife, like, I refused to write the check for daycare. I didn't want to see how much it was actually costing. And so she wrote the check every single time. And, I would see it in a bank statement, just kind of like scroll past really quick, because I didn't want to actually realize what that number was.
Yeah.
And then I finally, we sat down and we talked about it, and I'm like, that's a mortgage with what we're paying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we had a third child, and I was like, like this is going to get really, really expensive. And fortunately, the timing of the kids and stuff, they ended up not all being in daycare at the same exact time. But again, I sit there and I look at like, how do some parents afford this? And, and then I'm like, well, that's why we have such a debt problem. There's got to be other ways. So, it's hard to increase your income, but like I have an episode plan where it's like how to like turn your passion into a side business. So I have somebody that's going to come on who did exactly that while they still had their full-time job, but they were able to turn a hobby into a business, to help offset costs and to help start saving towards what their goal was.
I think these sound like such fantastic episodes. One other that popped into my mind that I don't know if you've thought about yet, but I know I've heard you talk about your son is on a traveling baseball team. My husband is a firefighter, and a lot of his friends have kids on traveling teams as well. I know that can get expensive too. So an episode on, kids sports and things like that too is, I think, another really important cost to just kind of keep in mind when you're having kids. Their hobbies aren't cheap.
No, they're not. And that's, so many people will they'll stop, like when their daycare costs stop, they're like, oh, I got all this extra money, I'm going to now turn it and start blowing it on something else. Where it's helping parents realize, hey, just continue saving that money. You've made it all these years paying it. Let's just reposition that savings into something else.
Yeah. The costs don't go down with kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I forget what the number is. They say how much over like between birth to 18, how much it actually costs to raise a kid.
Mm,
Um, I can't remember what that number is, but it's ridiculous.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, you have had your own firm, just you, for over 6 months at this
hmm
point.
hmm
And so I would love to ask you one final question. What is the biggest lesson or piece of advice that you've learned about marketing your own firm and kind of having to wear that hat on your own?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. It's just getting started.
Mm,
Don't overthink it. Especially there's a lot of systems out there that you can borrow from other advisors.
mm,
Don't be afraid to ask. I've had a lot of advisors over the last 6 months share a lot of information with me on what they're doing marketing wise. And don't be afraid to try it. There are some things that I have tried and I'm like, I don't like this.
mhm,
And there's some things where I'm super uncomfortable doing, but the more I do it, I'm getting a little bit more and more comfortable. Like video was one of those things that I pushed my podcast off because I wasn't comfortable being on video and doing YouTube. And everybody was like, well, if you have a podcast, you want to do a video podcast so you can upload that to YouTube. Um, so like I said, I started with some of those YouTube videos and stuff, and I'm getting a little bit more comfortable on there. But my podcast, I don't do a video with it yet, so I can be a lot more relaxed. I'm sitting back in my chair, I'm holding the mic in my hand, I'm pretending that I'm on like a phone call with clients. So
love
I'm walking around my office. Sometimes I knock something over, because the cord gets caught on, my other monitor or something like that. But it's one of those things that like I just can't stress it enough just to actually, you know, almost shut up and do it type of
that.
thing.
Yeah, I love that. Remove whatever barrier is holding you back
Mhm.
and do what you can do. I love that advice. That's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. And it's again, there's programs, software, AI, all this stuff that makes it so much easier
Hmm.
to repurpose content with a click of a button.
Yep.
So even like right now, I'm a one person shop. I don't have any admins or anything like that. And I've blocked out my Mondays are marketing Mondays. So that's what I really focus on. I knock out all my social media for the week. Sometimes for 2 weeks, I try to record the videos then, the podcast episodes then. And that way the rest of the week it's client focused. I'm working, on the business or in the business, I guess. And blocking out my calendar, like all of those little baby steps have just really helped me with my marketing game.
Now that is a hot tip. I've never heard anyone say that before, and I think that's really smart. If you have one day a week that's your marketing day, all the other days can be client focused. That's really smart.
Yeah. Trying to balance everything, that's what it comes down to. And again, if you look at my calendar, everything's color coordinated. And ever since I started doing that, it's made my business a lot easier to run.
Mm. Well, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Yeah. My website, victuswealth.com, is probably the best place. Following me on LinkedIn, um, subscribing and listening to my podcast. I love telling stories, and that is my way to be able to get my story out there. And also, I share a lot of clients' stories in there, so people are able to relate to them and everything like that. That podcast is Now and Beyond, and then also I have my Instagram page, which I'm starting to post more and more on, but my wife always yells at me because I'm not that person to take pictures or videos unless she's nudging me saying, hey, get a picture of me and the kids.
Yes.
Typical husband, I guess. But the Instagram page as well.
Great. I'll link to all of those in the show notes. And I just can't thank you enough, Ryan. This was a great conversation. So thanks for your time today. And thanks to all of our listeners of the Finance Marketing Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.